Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, EODGamer here, and today we're back with another 1.4 video talking about the banner review of the cast, the 4-star cast. The main character like Jingliu and for example Topaz here, and even Seele, you can just substitute the picture out. We've already talked about the 5 stars on our other videos, the investment value video. Check it out if you're interested. In this video, however, we are really going to be talking about the 4 stars and the value the overall banner will bring, whether you are a new player or a veteran player. We're going to talk about it in 3 aspects: value, synergy, as well as versatility. I'll go more in detail when I uncover what is the rating of each of them, but I'll likely be doing this forward as well for every new patch, so if you're interested to see the comparison across time, do like and subscribe for more of such future content. Of course, let's jump in. You know, we don't waste time on this channel. So I think the main highlight of Jingliu's banner, to me at least, is Tingyun. Tingyun is a super strong character, probably like the best or if not second best 4-star in the game. Really strong as a buffing unit. She can be paired well with many hyper carries, which a lot of new players tend to have, and especially if you're a new player, you will likely be playing a hyper carry style because you don't have the resources to build like many DPSs to the same extent. That's why Tingyun is like super good, and she even scales well the late game because she still doesn't lose her shine, giving batterying like a character and stuff like that. She works well with Jingliu. Even if you don't get Jingliu, maybe you are unfortunately a bit unlucky, she works well with characters like Jingyuan also. She works very well with characters like Seele and etc. also. Very strong unit, hyper carry style, buffs them up. Super good with Jingliu as well because she feeds battery into her. She gives a bit of attack as well as a nice harmony buff. You can put like light cones like dance and etc. So a really solid pairing. Tingque, on the other hand, Tingque at E0 is a bit trickier to play because you need to use her skill points wisely and stuff like that. You could possibly force a team between both of them, but I don't think it's like super likely. I think the appeal of Tingque appearing here is any of you who don't have Seele on your account and maybe you have a Tingque like E3, E4, you want to try your luck at E6. I think Tingque at E6 is a totally different character from her at E0. Very strong units. Many have already commented that she's even at E6, possibly even better than an E0 without a signature like Cone Seele. So it's very interesting to know that at least free-to-plays have an alternative, with of course a caveat is it being at E6. Tingque is a super strong character. And if along the way you are looking for like build guides for any of these characters, I already have it on the channel, slightly dated ones. I'll do an updated build guide video, of course, once the banner goes live. Many things have changed, many new characters as well, and new artifacts have been released. Last but not least, I think is the most lackluster one out of all 3 of them, Sampo. Sampo is a bit more niche in a sense. He does good amounts of windbreak damage, don't get me wrong. A solid unit if you want to do some wind shear damage, but likely will succeed more with like characters like Kafka, and DOT teams is where he possibly shines a bit more since his ultimate is also increasing DOT damage. In this roster, he does feel a bit awkward and out of place, but given how we all start with like Natasha for free, you could probably just like throw him out and then swap in Natasha in. You might get by a bit of copium with Tingque and Jingliu, especially if Tingque is on low Eidolons in the same team. For new players, I think this is a pretty good value one, and that's why let's start off with the first category. I think the value is like A+. If Sampo was swapped out and you put in, for example, a character like maybe Nickss here, I think he'll be an S tier in terms of value. Very strong value because you have Harmony, you have Erudition, you have Destruction, you even have her healer as well. But I think for the fact that we have Natasha on one side, I think is pretty decent too. I'll put it at A+ value. If you are a new player, this value likely will go up a little bit higher because Tingyun is of course super good for newer players early on. But maybe if you have been playing for a while, you have more than like 2 DPSs well built, you're just getting Jingliu because you like her, the value of this banner likely will decrease a bit. But in that case, if you're like a later game player, likely Tingque will be the one that attracts you a bit more, so you can get that E6 Tingque playstyle. And that's why I decided to settle at an A+ value. Not the best, but it's good for both new as well as veteran players. For synergy here, I left it an A tier. I think this team, the only one that synergizes very well with the banner character probably is Tingyun. Obviously, I would like a little bit more differences here. I talked about Jingliu's like build guide already, or team composition guide. You can check this out. Check it out for more information if you want to know like what is good synergy. But for me, I don't think I'll play the 4 of them in the same team. Likely not going to be easy to manage. That is why I put A tier for a synergy. If you're a new player and you don't have units, you won't want to put all 4 of these characters in the same team. Check out the team comp video. I talk about more of how you can actually build a possible team. For versatility here, I think I put it at A+. if you were a new player pulling for this banner, you will have a solid DPS, erudition DPS. You start off with like E0, and if you are super lucky, you get multiple copies. You can get her like E4 and stuff like that. Will likely work her way to E6 already. And Tingyun is just super versatile because a lot of main DPSs really like this character for hyper carry kind of style. You funnel attack, you funnel damage bonuses, you funnel battery, you have dance, you speed boost as well, or action advance with dance like cone. So super versatile. Because of her, likely will push the account very high. And not only if you want to go like traditional crit DPS like Qingque, Jingliu's playstyle, you also have the option to play into DOT teams. If let's say you want to play a Kafka based team, which is why I put it slightly higher in terms of versatility. You can find good value in these characters in teams around, just that of course they won't be playing together, and it's very split, where one is like DOT, one is you need high Eidolons to see her really shine. Tingyun is really the carry for versatility in that sense. So that is my thoughts on Jingliu's banner. Overall, I think it's probably an A+, really good value for new players if you are planning to join the game like in Jingliu's banner, or maybe you just joined recently. Super good value. Decent for late game players as well, especially if you're looking to finish up at E6 or any of them E6 as well. Definitely a very good value here. Next up, let's talk about the second banner. Topaz, Seele really can be inter-exchange because I didn't want to put too many images here to confuse everyone, so I just left Topaz, the new character here. But if you're pulling for Seele, just think of it as the same thing. I think it's very interesting. If you straight away look at like this icon, the first thing you will notice is you have a split between fire, physical. Whereas previously when we looked at Jingliu's banner, you see this rainbow of like each one element, which makes it trickier to build like mono teams. I think the key value that Topaz banner, specifically of course Topaz, will bring is if you are bumping up the elements right now, like maybe you are slightly later game player, you're looking to fine-tune rosters that you don't have the characters for, Topaz banner is a good banner to build because you get to buff up your fire element DPS section and your physical DPS section. Maybe you don't have Clara, you only have like Susang for example, and maybe you're planning to put Argentine Nickss in the subsequent patch, who knows, the erudition physical character. You could do quite well with bumping a little bit of physical characters here and doubling down on fire as well. If for example you don't have Himiko, or you don't have much fire DPSs available, this is a pretty good alternative. So I would say this is a banner that is niche in a sense where you're focusing on specific weaknesses in your whole entire roster, your whole account focus. Very good to pinpoint those weaknesses and get value out of that. For Huynh, a very strong DOT character, we have to see exactly how much fire and output damage she puts. Do check back on the channel for that, for more testing once the game goes live of course. I'll be talking about a build guide for her towards the later part of 1.4 as well. But we've already seen these two physical characters, so it's much more easier to comment. I think Susang is definitely probably an A+ S tier character. Super flexible, super independent. With her E1, when you hit a weakness broken enemy, she gets like a skill point back. So it's like super skill point neutral, can be fit into a lot of teams, that especially if your DPS is maybe a little bit more hungry on the skill point side. Very good character with good amounts of flexibility because she can be built for like break effect. You can be built for example a crit, typical crit. She has self-action advance, good speed up, probably the best 4-star out of this roster in my opinion. And Luca of course is very strong, especially if you stack the attack on him, get that massive bleed going. But I do feel like in DOT teams, he doesn't have enough bleed as I would like. I wish like every single of his skill would launch bleed, so that's one of the downsides. But if you are maybe a Kafka player and you like Topaz, maybe Thick Thigh Saves Lives or something like that, you could consider pulling this banner because you get a DOT here, you get more Eidolons for a DOT here, you buff up your Hun category in like the other half. If you're not playing like, you're playing like one side Kafka, one side looking for another DOT, could be an interesting option as well to buff up your Kafka roster. So what are my thoughts on the Topaz or Seele banner? I think in terms of value, it probably will be an A, especially for newer players. Why do I say that is if you're a new player just coming to Honkai Star Rail, these characters are a little bit more niche with the exception of Seele. Huynh likely is going to be more of a fire DPS or nihility damage dealer kind of role, whereas Luca is going to be of course, although he's a nihility damage over time with the bleed, but he also does require investments. And in that sense, if you're a new player just coming to the game, you probably don't have that much resources to spread your whole account so thin to build like a 4 well-built DOT team of everyone contributing to damage. In that case, I would say probably A or B tier for a new player. If you are a whale or maybe you are a little bit later in the game, you started on day 1 and maybe you don't have like physical or fire teams, this value definitely goes up to an A+ or S tier because you specifically pinpoint like the elements you exactly want, and you just buff up their roster straight away to eventually tackle. I do see like having each element 1 DPS at least becoming more important in the future, especially if Hoyoverse decides to make the monsters a bit harder by reducing the amount of weaknesses they have. Right now they have like between 3 to 5, but they could drop to 2 weaknesses, 1 weakness. In that case, if you don't have like fire or physical, you likely will struggle in future too. But if you are looking for the new character, Argenti, and of course who is his physical erudition, likely will settle this portion in future, so no need to worry that much about that. I left it at A tier just for a bit of balance. But in terms of synergy, I gave this a pretty high synergy because you do have a couple of DOT characters here. It's very nice. What do I mean by synergy is not the 4 of them like playing in the same team, but how it synergizes with the rest of the roster. And I'm putting myself in the perspective that you get 1 of each. And if you get 1 of each, you can fill fire teams very nicely, you can fill physical teams very nicely, you have DOT teams here, you have independent characters here, you have a character that can play follow-up as well. So it fulfills very nicely like a very broad range of setups with a very nice clear goal. Like you want fire, you want physical, these will buff them up. You want DOT, you want hunt, it will buff them up. So in that sense, I think the synergy is definitely there with the broader roster, although I won't play all 4 of them in the same team, of course. But last but not least, of course, I would say the versatility is A tier. Although they can be fulfilled by many different roles with many of your other characters, a lot of these characters are kind of stuck in the specific role they are in. Unlike like a character, for example, like Tingyun, a character like maybe on the same thing will be like Mark 7, Lynx, Natasha. These characters tend to be a bit more flexible as supportive. These are all like damage dealers, which means that they more or less will play one role, if not maybe at most be relegated to like a sub DPS, or if you have them that's super well built, like maybe a main DPS, but rarely I feel that they are super flexible, and that's why I gave it an A tier for versatility. Really, the only reason why you'll be pulling on Topaz banner, you want the 4 stars, is because you're looking to buff up your slightly weaker physical and fire casts, or perhaps you are looking to like build your DOT teams a little bit more. You want to like maybe replace one of your DOT characters with, for example, Luca or Guinaifen, the new character, because you like their design better or something. That is like the one main reason why I think people will be pulling on the 4 stars here. But of course, if you have a different reason, do let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to hear from you too. And if you appreciate this kind of new format, I'm trying out something new. I'll likely do this every patch, but let me know if there's any concerns and something you wish to see in future that I cover too. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.